Dear students, in microeconomics, second chapter, theory of consumer behavior. The first chapter we already finished, the second chapter, theory of consumer behavior. In this chapter, the 20 marks question will be asked for the final exam. In the 20 marks, 1 mark 1 question, 2 marks 2 questions, that means 4 marks. Then essay questions 4 marks, then 6 marks long essay question, then 5 marks 1 practical questions will be asked, total 20 marks. That is, the weightage is given to this chapter is 20 marks. That means you have to give more importance to this chapter, more importance to study this chapter, that is the theory of consumer behavior. In this consumer behavior, that means in a natural science such as physics, chemistry, etc., we are studying the theories or the laws related to that subjects, the physics and chemistry, that the practical experiments is conducted on the laboratory to formulate the theories based on this. But in social science, especially in economics, economists are formulating the economic theories or economics laws, that is on the basis of the behavior of the human beings or behavior of the consumer. The theory of consumer behavior studies how consumers spend their income to get more and more satisfaction. Economists call this the problem of choice, that we studied in the previous chapter, problem of choice. That means how we have to spend our limited income to get more and more satisfaction. So in this chapter, consumer behavior studies the same thing, how the consumer spend his income to get more and more satisfaction. Most naturally, consumers will want the combination of the different goods and services which gives him maximum satisfaction. Consumers usually decides demand on such goods and services that is based on the utility which he derives from that particular commodity. Dear students, in this, to study or to explain the theory of consumer behavior, there are two different approaches to explain the theory of consumer behavior. One is cardinal utility analysis and another one is ordinal utility analysis. Cardinal utility analysis means the level of utility can be measured in numbers such as 1, 2, 3, etc. For example, an apple which yield the utility 20 units, an orange which yield the utility 20 units or 10 units or 15 units, a shirt which gives the utility of 50 units. That means we measure the utility derived by a consumer with the help of numbers. Ordinal utility analysis means the consumer does not measure the utility in numbers, but he can only be compared. The utility derived from the commodity can be compared. The consumer supposed to be rank, or he has to give rank or order that the utility obtained from the consumption of different goods and services. So we are using two approaches in this chapter. That then we can say that is the utility. We here use the term utility. So what it meant? Utility means it is the power or capacity of a commodity to satisfy the human wants. Every and each commodities or goods and services has the utility or has the power to satisfy the human wants. That means utility means it is the want satisfying capacity of a commodity. What are the features of utility? So, features of utility, one of the feature of utility is that utility is subjective. Utility is subjective, that different persons from the different levels of satisfaction can obtain from the same commodity. Different persons can obtain different level of satisfaction from the same commodity. That is means the utility is subjective. That means I said that every objective has a utility which has the power to satisfy the human wants. If I use this piece of chalk, this has the utility to satisfy the power of the teachers. The books which has the utility to satisfy the power of the students. Or we can say that the services, not only the commodities has the power, at the same time the services has the power to satisfy the wants of the consumers or wants of the human beings. For example, the service, the doctor service, the services of the doctor has the power to satisfy the wants of his patient. So, every or each goods and services has the power to satisfy the wants of a human being. So, we can say that utility is subjective. Another feature of utility is that utility is changes from place to place and time to time, which changes from place to place. That the white rice which has greater utility in Bangalore but which has less or no utility in Mangalore. That means white rice has the utility in both the places, but in Bangalore which has greater utility, but in Mangalore which has less utility, means utility of that white rice is changed from place to place. At the same time, which has changes from time to time. The utility has changes from time to time. We can example that is the raincoat, which has more utility in rainy season but no utility in summer season. So, we can say that utility is a wants satisfying power or capacity of a commodity. Next, the measures of utility. Measures of utility, the total utility and marginal utility. Total utility we are depicted here TU, that means total utility. What is this total utility? Total utility means it is the total amount of the satisfaction or the utility gained or derived by the consumer from the consumption of a particular commodity at a particular period of time. It is a total utility means it is the total amount of the utility derived by a consumer at a particular commodity at a particular period of time. That is the total utility. For example, the 5 units of one of the commodity or 5 units of a particular commodity or 5 units, that we can say it is utility 1, utility 2, utility 3, utility 4, utility 5. It is the 5 units of a particular commodity. We can take it is mango. The particular commodity is mango. The utility of that particular commodity is utility 1, utility 2, utility 3, utility 4, utility 5. So, to get the total utility, we have to add all that 5 units utility. So, utility 1 plus utility 2 plus utility 3 plus utility 4 plus utility 5. We add all the utilities derived by a consumer from a particular commodity, we will get the total utility. In other words, we can say that total utility is it is the summation of marginal utility. The total utility is the summation of marginal utility. So, what is this marginal utility? Marginal utility means it is the additional utility or the extra utility derived by a consumer by consuming additional unit of a commodity, or it is the extra utility derived by a consumer by consuming one more unit of a commodity, that is called marginal utility. Or in other words, we can say that marginal utility means it is changes in the total utility by consuming one more unit of that particular commodity. Changes in total utility, how much total utility is changed by consuming one more unit of that particular commodity, that is called marginal utility. So we can say that, we can give the example marginal utility. Suppose the units, if the consumer consumes 4 units of mango, he gets the total utility, it is the 28 units. Then if he consumes one more unit, means the 50 units of mango, he will get 30 units of total utility. 30 units of total utility. I said the marginal utility means changes in total utility. We can write in this way, marginal utility is equal to changes in total utility divided by delta quantity, or means changes in quantity. So I said if he consumes 4 units of mango, he will get, or the consumer will get the 28 units of total utility. If he consumes one more unit, that means the 5th unit, he will get the total utility 30 units. That means how much marginal utility he got. That we can say the marginal utility, if we can use it, is the changes in the total utility is, the changes in the total utility is, it is 30 minus 28, it means it is 2. Then the changes in the quantity, 5 minus 4 is 1, we get the marginal utility is 2. Marginal utility is 2. Or in other word, we can say, we can explain that the marginal utility by using the equation marginal utility is equal to total utility n minus total utility n minus 1. Here total utility n means total utility of a 5th unit minus total utility of a 4th unit. Total utility of 5th unit minus total utility of 4th unit. Total utility of 5th unit is, it is 30. The total utility of 5th unit is 30. So we are writing 30 minus total utility of 4th unit is, it is 28. 28, we will get 30 minus 28 means it is 2. So marginal utility is, it is 2. We can say marginal utility means it is the extra utility, additional utility derived by the consumer by consuming one more unit of a commodity. So in this way we can explain the total utility and marginal utility. The law of diminishing marginal utility. The one important law we are studying under this chapter, that is under the theory of consumer behavior, it is the important law, the law of diminishing marginal utility. This law is first formulated by the German economist Professor Gaussen. That is why this law is called Gaussen's first law. But this law was popularized by Professor Alfred Marshall. The law of diminishing marginal utility was popularized. The great eminent economist was called as Professor Alfred Marshall. He explains, he defines the law of diminishing marginal utility in his definition. He gives the definition about this law. He says that an additional benefit which a person derives from the given increase of the stock of anything diminishes with the stock which he already has. That means, if a person consumes a particular commodity continuously, the marginal utility what he derives from the consumption of a utility or the consumption of a units of a commodity goes on diminishes, or the consumer increases the amount of a commodity one after another, keeping all the consumption of all other commodity constant, the marginal utility what he gets goes on decreases or goes on diminishes. That is called law of diminishing marginal utility. For in simple we can say that, I said, any person or any consumer consumes a particular commodity continuously without gap, the additional utility or the extra utility or the marginal utility goes on diminishes. So, this law is formulated by the economist on the basis of some of the assumptions, but in second year that assumption is no need to write. For your knowledge I am saying some of the assumption, because in economics each and every law, that is especially the microeconomic theories, are based on the assumption to hold good. Here there are some of the assumptions that the consumption should be continuous, the consumer's income should be remain constant, there should not be change in the consumer's income, the price of the related goods should be remain same, then the size of the commodity should be reasonable, there is no changes in the size of the commodity what he consumes, then the consumer should be rational. So, when all these assumptions are done, then this law is applicable in economics. So, the law of diminishing marginal utility can be explained with the help of the schedule and the diagram, then it is better to understand. So, this table, I made one of the table here, the first column units. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The units of any particular commodity we can take, that is a glass of water or a one dosa or a apple or a orange or a chapati or a idli, any particular commodity we can continuously consume. One after another we consume, the total utility is derives. That means in 1 unit of water he gets 12 units of total utility. The second units of water, the second glass of water, he gets 18 units of total utility. The third glass of water he gets 22 units, the fourth 24 units and the fifth again 24 units, and the sixth glass of water he gets again the 22 units of a total utility. This is total utility he gets or a consumer gets from the consumption of a particular units of a commodity. This total utility what he written, the value of the total utility what I wrote, it is the imaginary values. You can write any numbers which can be increased at a diminishing rate. The total utility is increasing at a diminishing rate. It should not be increasing at an increasing rate, but it should be increased at a diminishing rate. Then in the third column, I wrote it is the marginal utility. So, we already know how to calculate this marginal utility. By using that equation, marginal utility is equal to total utility n minus total utility n. That means in the total utility, the changes in the total utility, when the changes in the units, we will get the marginal utility. Here it is the total utility 12. There is no changes in the units. We are written here the marginal utility is 12. Then in the second units of a commodity, there is a changes in the units of a commodity is 1, that is 2 minus 1 is 1. Then the total utility is changed, it is 18 minus 12, that is the total utility n minus total utility n, marginal utility is equal to total utility n minus total utility n minus 1. I wrote, that is the equation to calculate the marginal utility. Total utility n means here it is the second units. The second unit's total utility is 18. Total utility n minus 1 means it is the first unit. The first unit's total utility is, it is 12. We will get the total utility 18 minus 12 means it is the 6, means the second units, the marginal utility we got, it is the 6 units. The same way we have to calculate the marginal utility, that is in the third unit the total utility is 22, the second unit the total utility is 18, the changes in the total utility, it is the 22 minus 18, it is 4. Then the fourth unit's total utility, 22 is third units of utility, then we will get the marginal utility is 2. Then the 24 minus 22 is 2, 24 minus 24 is 0, 22 minus 24 means in the small number, if we deduct the great number, larger number, we will get the sign, it is a minus. So, we are written here minus 2, that means negative 2. I think you understood to calculate the marginal utility. So, total, I already said the total utility is the imaginary values, whatever the numbers we can give, but it should be in the diminishing rate. It should not be in the increasing rate, it should be in the diminishing rate. It is the imaginary values. But when we calculate the marginal utility, we have to use that equation. This equation we will get, or you remind in your mind, if we get the marginal utility, that is the 12 minus 0 is 12, 18 minus 12 is 6, 22 minus 18 is 4, 24 minus 22 is 2, 24 minus 24 is 0, 22 minus 24 is it's minus 2. So, in this way we are prepared one of the table which shows the law of diminishing marginal utility. With the help of this table, we can explain the law of diminishing marginal utility diagrammatically. Diagrammatically, we explain there is OX axis which stands units of a commodity. The OY axis which stands, it is the utility, means which stands the total utility as well as the marginal utility. Here I reflected this table in this diagram. Here x axis we written the units, that is 1 to 6. We written 1 to 6 units. Then in the total utility, the utility OY axis we refers it is the utility. Utility means all these numbers should be covered in this OY axis. That for that we are written 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Then mark the total utility first. Mark the total utility column first. We have to mark if the units 1, then the total utility is 12. So, when the utility, the units is 1, we have to mark the total utility is 12. We marked here 1, the 12, then the second units, we marked it is 18. In the middle of the 15 and the 20 it comes, it is 18 we marked here, and in the third units we marked 22, and the fourth units we marked it is 24, and the fifth units we marked 24, and the sixth unit we mark here 22. When we join all these points, we will get one of the curve, that is the first is the total utility is increasing at a diminishing rate, and it remains same, then when after the maximum level of total utility, then it starts to decline or it starts to fall. So, this is shows. So, this upper side curve shows the total utility. Then to marginal utility curve, again we mark when the 1 unit of the commodity, we mark the marginal utility, it is 12, 1 unit marked 12, and in the second units we marked 6.6. And when the third unit we mark the value is 4, and in the fourth unit we mark the value 2, and fifth units it is 0. 0 means it is on the OX axis, and when the sixth units of commodity consumed, he gets it is -2. When we write here it is 0, then -2, then we are pointed out here it is the -2, then when we join all these points we will get the curve, it is downward falling curve, means which says it is the marginal utility is diminishes. So, this is called marginal utility curve. So, in this we can explain the law of diminishing marginal utility. That means when a consumer consumes a particular commodity continuously, the total utility goes on increase. The total utility goes on increase. The marginal utility goes on diminishes. It is declining. It is falling down. So here when we study the relation the total utility and marginal utility, when the total utility increases, increases, marginal utility is decreasing. That we are know when we are seeing this diagram. The marginal utility diminishes, the total utility is increases. Then when the total utility is in the saturation point means it is in the maximum point means it is in this number the maximum is 24, the maximum is 24, that means in the fifth unit the saturation point it is 24, the maximum unit means the total utility. When the total utility is maximum, then the marginal utility is 0. When the total utility is maximum, marginal utility is 0. And when the total utility starts to diminishes, when the total utility starts to fall, then the marginal utility becomes negative. Here we can see that when the total utility is maximum, marginal utility should be 0, and when the total utility starts to fall down or starts to decline, then the marginal utility will becomes negative. So, the negative. So, this we can explain the law of diminishing marginal utility. This will comes for the 6 marks question. I explained the law of diminishing marginal utility, which shows that we can measure the utility in numbers. In the law of diminishing marginal utility, we measure the utility in numbers. That means in the cardinal utility, we can study the law of diminishing marginal utility. Next, come to the ordinal utility analysis. Ordinal utility analysis, we are going to study about the indifference curve. Indifference curve. Indifference. In Kannada we can use it is Audakshinya Vakra Rekhe. Audakshinya, udasinate, we are neglecting. So, indifference curve. What is this indifference curve? Indifference curve means it is the combination of the different combination of two goods which gives same level of satisfaction. The different combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction, that is the consumer prefers those commodity, the bundles of those commodity which gives him the same level of satisfaction, that is called as indifference curve. the different combination of two different goods which gives the same level of satisfaction, that is called indifference curve. That we can explain with the help of a diagram. O x axis, O y axis. In O x axis we can take it is banana, here it is mango. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, can take it is 5. So this is called indifference curve. I said ordinal utility means the utility cannot be measured in numbers, but we can compare. That means we can give the rank or order to that utility which derives from that commodity. Here the ordinal utility, in that we are studying indifference curve. The indifference curve means it is the different combination of, here we can write the combination A, B, C, D. This is the points A, B, C, D, etc. are the different combination of the two goods such as banana and mango. The different combination of these two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction. So whatever the points on the indifference curve which is shows or which gives the same level of satisfaction to the consumers. When the consumer purchase 15 units of mango and 1 unit of banana. When the consumer purchase 12 units of mango and 2 units of banana. When the consumer purchase 10 units of mango, then 3 units of banana, which shows that when consumer increasing the consumption of a banana, the increasing the consumption of a commodity like banana, then he has to forgo the consumption of another commodity, that is mango. So when he consumed 1 unit of banana, he consumed 15 units of banana. Then to consume 1 more unit of banana, he has to sacrifice some amount of mango. He has to forgo the some other commodity. The mango it is 12. Then the 1 more unit of commodity, then he has to forgo the mango, that is 12 to 10. So while increasing the number of the commodity, increasing the number of one of the commodity, he has to sacrifice another commodity. So we can say that always because of that, that is because to get one more of one commodity, we have to sacrifice the another commodity. That is called the indifference curve, which is always convex to the origin. So the shape of the indifference curve, we can say that the shape of the indifference curve is like that, not like this. It is not concave to the origin, but it is convex to the origin. So because this the indifference curve is convex to the origin, due to the law of marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution. So I am going to say that the shape of the indifference curve is convex to the origin, because that is due to the marginal rate of substitution. What is this marginal rate of substitution? The marginal rate of substitution means that is to get one more unit of the commodity, to get to one more unit of one of the commodity has to sacrifice some amount of another commodity. That is I shown here, that is to get more unit of banana, he has to sacrifice some amount of mango, that the rate at which one commodity is sacrificed to get more unit of another commodity, that is called the marginal rate of substitution. So, we can write the marginal rate of substitution is equal to the delta y divided by delta x. That is the changes in the y commodity divided by the changes in the x commodity, we get the marginal rate of a substitution. I think you understood what is this marginal rate of substitution. So, why this indifference curve shape is convex to the origin, because that is due to the marginal rate of substitution. That is, the marginal rate of substitution means the rate at which the consumption of one commodity which has to forgone the consumption of another commodity, that is called as the marginal rate of substitution. For example, that is, we can take the y commodity, then here x commodity, the change in y commodity 15 minus 12, and the change in x commodity 1 minus 2, here we can get the 3 minus 1, that means the 3 is the marginal rate of substitution. When the 12 minus 10, we will get it is 2, then the rate of substitution is it is 2. So, it goes on diminishes, that is why we will get the curve which is not the straight line, that is because of the marginal rate of a substitution. I think you got the point about this marginal rate of substitution. Indifference map, we have studied indifference curve, that different combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction, that is called indifference curve. What is this indifference map? Indifference map means it is the family or a group of indifference curve. It is a family or group of indifference curves is called as indifference map, that we explain with the help of a diagram. OX axis banana, OY axis mango, or we can say it is the commodity X and commodity Y. So, we can say it is IC1, this is IC2, this is IC3, etc. So, I said it is a family or a group of indifference curve which gives different level of satisfaction. So, there are a points or there are a commodity on the indifference curve which shows on this indifference map, that is the point A, point B, point C or point D, or the combination of A, B, C, D, etc. But there is a different indifference curves here. There is not only one indifference curve, but indifference curve, that is the points on the indifference, the same indifference curve which gives the same level of satisfaction, which should be give the same level of satisfaction, then only it is called as indifference curve. But in this indifference map, there are there are a group of indifference curve which shows, that is IC1, IC2 or indifference curve 3. So, there are 3 indifference curve shows here. So, this is called indifference map, but which gives a different level of satisfaction. The point A gives one level of satisfaction, the point C gives the another level of satisfaction to the consumer. That is, if the consumer consumes or consumer purchase a commodity that is lies on the bundle of the indifference curve C, that D point which gives the another level of satisfaction to the consumer. So, we remember here indifference curve means it is the family or a group of indifference curves which gives different level of satisfaction to the consumer. Let me study now the features of indifference curve. After studying the meaning of indifference curve and the meaning of indifference map, let me know features of indifference curve. There are many features of indifference curve, but according to the syllabus, we are going to study only the 3 features. The first one, the first feature, indifference curve slopes downwards from left to right. One of the features of indifference curve is that the indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. The second feature, higher indifference gives greater level of utility. Higher indifference curve gives greater or higher level of utility. The third feature, 2 indifference curves never intersect each other. The 2 indifference curve never intersect each other. Let me explain the first feature. Indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. I said the indifference curve is convex to the origin that slopes downward from left to right. In this diagram shows it is started sloping downward from left to right. That means if a consumer want to purchase more of one commodity, he has to forgo some amount of another commodity. I already explained, the consumer wants to purchase more unit of banana, he has to sacrifice or he has to forgo some amount of mango. That's why always indifference curves slopes downward from left to right. Then the second feature I said, higher indifference gives greater level of utility. There are indifference curves which is in higher. We can give it is indifference curve 1, indifference curve 2, indifference curve 3. There are 3 indifference curve, but the consumer consumes those commodity which lies, or the consumer gives more preference to that commodity which lies on higher indifference curve. We can give here it is A, B, C. That is the combination A, B, C gives same amount of mangoes, but different level of banana. If we purchase A combination, he gives preference to combination A. In that combination, he can purchase 10 units of mangoes, 1 unit of banana. If he gives preference to B commodity, which is lies on the indifference curve 2, in that he can purchase 10 units of mangoes and 2 units of banana. And when he goes to the third combination C, the same level of utility, the 10 units of utility, then the more units of mango, that is 3. So here we shows that when there are many indifference curve, the consumer purchases those combination, those commodity which is lies on the higher level of indifference curve, that is called as monotonic preference, which is called as monotonic preference. Monotonic preference means the rational consumer always gives preference to that commodity which lies on the higher level of indifference curve, or the consumer, the rational consumer always prefer those commodity which is on the higher level of indifference curve, which gives a higher level of satisfaction to him. If he purchases or if he gives preference to the combination C, in that he can gives the 10 units of mangoes and he can purchase the 3 units of bananas, that means more units of banana and more units of mango gives him higher level of satisfaction. So, he is go for that combination which gives him higher level of satisfaction. That is why one of the features of indifference curve is that the higher indifference curve gives him greater level of utility. Then the third feature, two indifference curve never intersect each other. We should not be intersect. So, indifference curves are like these, but which cannot be intersect with each other. So, in this diagram we can see that is the combination A and combination B lies on the indifference curve 1. There are two combination A and combination B lies on the indifference curve 1, and the combination A and combination C lies on the indifference curve 2. So, the two combinations lies on the indifference curve 1 and the two combinations lies on the indifference curve 2. That is, the combination lies on the indifference curve 1, it is A and B, which gives the same level of satisfaction to the consumer, and the combination A and combination C on the indifference curve gives the same level of satisfaction to the consumer. So, if he purchase the combination A which lies on the two indifference curve, that means in that point, the point A, the two indifference curve intersected, that means when there is intersected, gives a same level of satisfaction to the consumer. That this is a bird which gives a bird result to the consumer, because the combination A which lies on the two indifference curve, but according to the indifference curve, the combination lies on the two indifference curve which gives different level of satisfaction to the consumer. When we choose this point A which gives the same level of satisfaction, when the combination B which consumer gets more units of mangoes and the same level of bananas, and in the combination C the consumer gets less of mangoes than B. The combination C, the consumer get less number of mangoes than B and the same level of the same amount of bananas in the combination C. So, in this the consumers always prefer the combination B which gives him the higher level of satisfaction. So, that is why we can say that the two indifference curve never intersect each other. So, these are all the main features of indifference curve which will be asked for 6 marks.